Welcome to UO Today. I'm Paul Peppis, Director of the Oregon Humanities Center. My guest today is Kiersten Muenchinger, Director of the Product Design Program and a Principal of the Green Product Design Network at the University of Oregon. Muenchinger researches new materials and their processing methods to understand when and why the newest materials technologies are accepted in mass-produced consumer products. Muenchinger was named one of the 30 most admired educators for 2015 by Design Intelligence and Industrial Design Journal. Thank you, Kirsten, for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
What is product design? What do product designers do?
What do product designers do? Yeah, it's not like doctor, lawyer, firefighter, where everyone just knows from television. An easy way to look at it is it's kind of like architecture, but for anything that's not a building. So it's the process of design and the process of understanding what's useful to human beings and how we move through our lives. But it could be anything from a shoe to a handbag to contact lenses to an environment, to a room.
What's the relationship between product design and industrial design? Are they the same thing?
They're kind of the same thing. In most professional circles, those two terms are interchangeable. In academia, we have slight nuances and difference between the two. Industrial design has a more historic background in creating 2D or now virtual representations of a thing. And product design tends to have more hands-on building of the thing. And both of the goals are the same. You're looking to innovate and create new things that help human needs. But there's just a tiny nuance in how we go about creating our artifacts.
So you just alluded to a development. You said 2D and now virtual.
Yeah.
So obviously computer technology, digital tools have radically transformed everything.
Yeah.
So let's say a little bit about how digital tools have transformed product design.
Well, one of the things that we can do in product design that is really different now than we used to is we can create things within a day. For all mass manufacturing processes, it would take a long time. You would need an expert to be able to make tooling for you, to get your idea to something that would be mass produced. And that rather large step and time-consuming step has been taken out, and a person can actually produce something very easily on their own now, especially with the additive printing technologies that are becoming much more ubiquitous.
When you say additive printing technologies, what is that?
So additive manufacturing is taking a material and adding little bits of it one area at a time to create a much larger physical object. Whereas other manufacturing types like subtractive manufacturing, if you think of working with wood, you buy a plank of wood or a 4x8 sheet of wood and you cut it down into whatever you want. So additive is building up. Welding is another kind of additive manufacturing. But the one that's being looked at right now are all these printing technologies to print an object.
3D printing is what we
3D
popularly
printing.
call it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we didn't used to have a product design program at the U of O, did we?
No.
So tell me why we have one and tell me how it got started.
Yeah. So it's 7 years old, and it got started from the product design community in Oregon. There's a large community of design-based business in Oregon. There's sports product with Nike and Columbia, of course. There's also Intel and Logitech. And then there's also lots of other companies that are smaller, known, but there's a huge creative industry here of product-based business. And the collective of these organizations they formed a lobbying group and went from college to college to see if someone would please teach Oregonians how to do this stuff so that they wouldn't have to import all of their brain trust for these things. So the School of Architecture and Allied Arts said, well, we kind of do that, and with the resources that we have through architecture and fine arts and digital arts and interior architecture, we can actually build the product design program fairly easily. So that's what happened. And I think it's so cool that here in Oregon, the industry, the people out there making their lives in the world on this actually volleyed for this to happen as opposed to the other way around.
So you you described it as an interdisciplinary program, so there's people from architecture, there's people from creative arts, there's people from digital arts, et cetera, that all work together. So the students who come to the program, what are the degrees that the program gives, first of all? What are the degrees that they can earn?
There's a 5-year Bachelor of Fine Arts degree that is the professional degree. And to do the Bachelor of Fine Arts, you spend 4 years in Eugene. And then you have your 5th year is actually up in Portland, and that gives you a softer launch into the denser creative community that is around the Portland area, and ability to also do startup work with friends and other people from that community that are already established. You can also get a Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science. The requirements for product design are the same for either of those 2 degrees, but you differentiate based on the liberal arts requirements that you're doing for the University of Oregon. And that's very different from a lot of other institutions. We also have 2 master's degrees that we're working toward that will hopefully be online in 2016. We'll have a Master of Design, which will be based here in Oregon, and we'll have a Master of Science in Sports Product, which will be based up in Portland.
For the undergrad program, tell us a little bit about the curriculum. What are the students who get a BFA or a BA or a BS in product design, what do they study?
What do they do?
Yeah.
So you do a lot of work with your hands in studio, first off. And part of that is to learn how to translate your thoughts into physical form. And you're doing that both so that you have a kinesthetic knowledge of it, but you also want to be able to understand manufacturing technologies that you can do onesie-twosie, because they translate pretty directly to what you do for mass production. So if you've had those kinds of problems, intimate problems in something that you're trying to create, you can understand what a mass facility is going to have problems with much more easily. So you do a lot of handwork in studio-sized classes. And those are really nice. They're small classes. You have a really nice intimate relationship not only with your tools and your materials, but also the other students and the professor. You'll also do courses that are lecture-based courses for direct materials and manufacturing principles, user scenarios and observing humans and how they work to decipher what their needs are in a space or with a product, and design processes. That there are different kinds of design processes that you use in different instances when you have different goals, and how you choose between those different kinds of processes. So those are larger lecture type courses. And then outside of the product design nomenclature, the base of product design classes, we also ask students to take, as part of the product design major, business courses, Business 101 in marketing, and you take those with the business students so that you interact with them and you know their lingo and you know how they're going to work, because one of the things that we need to do is be able to translate our ideas into business associated and understandable language. Same thing with anthropology. All of our students take an anthropology course to understand ethnography and how those kinds of, again, people observations are things that we'll use to look at how people interact with basic things in our world. And then we have our students take other classes within AAA, the School of Architecture and Allied Arts, in fine arts, in sculpture, ceramics, metalsmithing, and fibers, in interior architecture to understand the larger spaces in which we work, and in digital arts to understand the virtual 2D to 3D representations that we manipulate.
So can you give me an example of a project that students in your class are tackling right now?
Sure. The class that I'm working on right now is actually the course in materials and manufacturing properties. And we always do a redesign of a product that's already out there to make it something that is more manufacturable and manufacturable in very specific types of processes. The ultimate goal being a die-cast zinc product, so super specific. The category of products that we're dealing with this term are pet products, and we've specifically chosen a fur clipper, a dog toenail clipper, and a pooper scooper, which are 3 of the products that our local Green Hill Humane Society, as well as the largest pet store, the PetSmart that we have said were the three biggest product areas that they had difficulties with. So I have 47 students designing one of those three products right now.
And I mean, pooper scooper, but a clipper, a mechanized clipper?
A motorized
clipper.
Yep, but the mechanism is a blade action for that.
So are they're not designing the motor, they're designing the blades, right?
They're not designing the motor, they're designing how the motor is going to be translated to a cutting action. So, and how that cutting action is holdable by a person, doesn't cut where it's not supposed to cut on an animal, doesn't wear out the motor too quickly so that motors heat up as they go, and so how does air get in so that it doesn't overheat and burn out the motor? How do other accessories that make it, I don't know, Floby-esque fit on? It could be any of those kinds of things, but you're looking for something that is going to be ultimately better for the operator, the human operator of it, and the pet.
Can you tell us something about the program's achievements? What is the program?
Ooh, yeah, I'd love to. Our best achievement actually is that we've grown so well, and our students are doing really well, not only in school but out in the world already. For a program that's this small, and it was originally determined to have graduation cohorts of about 20 students each. We have graduation cohorts of about 45 students each, and which is big. And they are being competitive with their peers in other design schools that have been around for a long time in terms of competitions and exhibitions. Most recently, we were invited to show our student work at the Milan Salone del Mobile in Italy, and that's something that is a rare occasion for any school to get invited to, and we were invited in our 6th year of the program. So we have amazing faculty leadership to be able to have those things happen. The students have performed remarkably well. And I think in part because of all of that, that's one of the reasons that we're developing graduate program now too, is that all is just so stable, and to be a more vital part of the university, of being a tier 1 university, we need to have that graduate research as part of our base as well. That's going to help inform our undergrad students, and it's going to help all of the research that we have coming out be much more dispersed.
Can you tell me about some of the jobs that our graduates from the program have gotten, or the kinds of jobs that graduates from the program go for?
So it's like any major, you can do anything that you want, really. You can go out and one of our students recently graduated and decided to move to Beijing, since that's where a lot of product development happens, and moved there for a year, worked with 3 different design-based companies, developed a golfing peripheral that hooks up with your cell phone that analyzes your swing, a cell phone specifically, and some third computer peripheral. Had a great experience, decided that the air was a little too chunky, and moved back last year. We have students who will move into the Portland greater constituent of design-based businesses. So we have grads at Nike and Columbia and Leatherman and Gerber and Intel and Adidas and all of those folks who are up there, Logitech. We have people who move away. There's a large number of design consultancies in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we have several students that are moving down to be at design consultancies, which is like a law firm, a lot of different kinds of designers working on a problem together. And then we also have a strong number of students that will go into entrepreneurial ventures. About 10% of our students, kind of without us even pushing, will end up starting their own businesses in either production or consulting or a mix. They'll actually start a product-based business.
You've described the current ambition to get these 2 master's programs going. Tell me what you think the program will look like in 5 years. What are your aspirations for it beyond those master's programs?
Yeah. Well, I think the master's programs, one of the aspirations is in bringing those in, that we will be better known for the research that comes out of here, and primary research, and working with lots of different kinds of both users designing products for people, as well as what's happening in the world of design, especially in something like 3D printing or additive manufacturing, user interface design. Those are things that are going to let the name of the University of Oregon be much more widely known, and that's something that we would like to have. When you're doing really great work, you want people to know what great work that you're doing. I think one of the other aspirations that we have that goes along with that is to have our graduates start to be able to come back and influence what's going on in the program. We have about our graduates who graduated first off have now been out doing things for 5 years. We have a seedling of an idea to start a program so that they will come back, our most recent graduates, to help students understand what they can do going out into the world and the different kinds of things that they can do. Again, since it's not like doctor, lawyer, firefighter, there's lots of different things that you can see yourself doing.
You are involved with the UO's Sports Product Initiative. First of all, what is that?
What is that?
And then tell me what you do in it.
Yeah. The Sports Product Initiative is a goal to have business and product design working more with the sports product industry that we have a major hub of in Portland, a major international hub of in Portland, and have our students be interacting more with those folks, both in terms of graduates going out and getting jobs, as well as research coming back in. As a part of that, we're looking at right now, we're doing a materials research symposium in 2 weeks up in Portland about fibers, textiles, and what can happen new with fibers and textiles. And those are textiles are major things that influence those industries. And then what I do with the Sports Product Initiative is, at the moment, I'm directing a lot of things. We're looking at hiring people to come in both as faculty and as administrators for the Sports Product Institute. And we're also looking to systematize some of the things that we do already that we sort of put in place. For example, we annually run a studio in Portland called Adaptive Athletes, where our students work one-on-one with either wheelchair or otherwise athletes that are in the adaptive field. And that one-on-one relationship allows the student to build a product and the athlete to achieve greater performance. And we'd like to systematize that more through working with Oregon Disability Sports, which is the organization up in Portland that pulls together a lot of those athletic activities, with grant organizations like the Reeve Foundation, so that they know more about what we do, Paralyzed Veterans Association as well, for some of the research that can go into both creating product as well as how people can achieve more when they have products that's specifically suited for them. So we'd like to systematize more of what we're already doing and make it a little bit more permanent.
You mentioned the Sports Product Institute.
Sports Product Institute.
What is the Sports Product Institute?
The Sports Product Institute is an organization to help us systematize and bring in research specifically for those needs.
And that exists on campus? It's about to exist on campus?
It's about to exist. Yeah,
so
that's part of the initiative.
And the initiative is part of the Cluster Hire initiative, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
Ask you a little bit more about you.
Okay.
So what led to your interest in product design?
When I was going to college, I was a good in math and science kind of person who wanted to save the world. So of course I went to a liberal arts college to do that. And I was led into engineering, and specifically environmental engineering. And after going through the core curriculum, I had in my very first environmental engineering class, I was told by the professor, well, of course everything that we do is in response to regulation. I didn't want everything that I did to be in response to regulation. I wanted to be proactively saving the world. So I switched my focus to mechanical engineering, and then had another very influential professor who had a design bent and was working with several of the mechanical engineering professors on campus on different design-based initiatives, new product companies. And that was really interesting to me. It kind of put together all of the things that I wanted from a liberal arts college in one package. So I got my degree in engineering, but I had to look pretty quickly to understand really what the design world was, and through work and through grad school. So that's what led me to it.
So this work that you did before you went to grad school?
Yeah.
Tell me about that work. What was that?
I worked at Ford Motor Company as a modified vehicle engineer, which is basically taking a truck chassis and speccing it out so that it could either become an ice cream truck or an ambulance, and how that same chassis could do both of those things. After working at Ford, I worked for a design consultancy called IDEO, which is a pretty well-known design consultancy internationally. And that was working with a group of really sharp, great design people, and figuring out how engineering and other design principles go together. And then from that, I went to grad school.
Why did you go to back to school? What was that about?
I think that not having had the design undergrad, not even knowing about it as an undergrad, I felt like I needed the clout. I felt like I needed the education to be able to say that I knew what I was doing. And it was a great experience. It was a really good thing to do. The confidence that it gave me, I don't think I could have gotten through other job scenarios. It was a really good experience.
When you went into graduate school, did you think that you would be an academic, or did you think you would go back?
Oh, heck no.
So what brought you
So
here?
what brought me back?
Yeah.
Well, so I wanted to work in the profession, and I always did after that. But part of working in the profession in the San Francisco Bay Area is that there is a lot of startup community going on. There's a lot of entrepreneurialism. And while I was doing that, I worked for several design consultancies. I worked with startups while I was doing that. I ended up starting my own business. But I also was adjunct teaching at California College of the Arts. And I had one of those realizations that I was spending way more time there than I really ought to be, or was just in my world of things I needed to do. So along with that realization, the University of Oregon was looking to start this program. And with the start of program, there was this whole entrepreneurial aspect to that. So it was actually the joining of the entrepreneurial aspect of starting a program, as well as the academic environment that made me interested to come here.
So in a certain way, the desire to save the world, is that
Yes.
still alive in you?
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about the kinds of projects that you've worked on since you've been here. What are the things that you've talked about your sort of role as an administrator, as an organizer, as a leader, but do you do your own product design work anymore?
Yeah. Well, the research platform that I have right now is all based on people's perception of sustainability and different materials. There's if you just think about the popular perception of bamboo, that bamboo is going to save the world. If we just made enough things about with bamboo, we'd be great. But it's not true. And it also has a corollary for polymers that I'm really interested in. Polymers are seen as being the bane of everyone's sustainable existence. And they're actually, when you calculate a lot of the factors that go into a sustainable product, they tend to be great choices. So that conflict in our understanding of different materials, vernacularly, scientifically, is what I focus on. And the current project that I have going on gives people a similar product. Right now I'm working with cups, actually, because it's an object that comes in many different kind of materials without being questioned. It's something that everyone immediately knows how to use. And so I present people with a series of cups that are all made of different materials, and I ask them to rate those cups based on their sustainability on several different factors that we use in design for qualitative tools of design in designing a sustainable product. And
when you say sustainable, do you mean in the environmentally sustainable way, or?
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
in the environmentally sustainable, as opposed to the business or the market way. Yeah, yeah. And so the results are pretty interesting. Some of the things that have come up are that People find transparency actually as an indicator of something being more sustainable, whether it's glass or a transparent polymer. There's something about transparency that makes us feel it's a more sustainable product. There's something about things that we think have been grown as opposed to been mined that we think of as being more sustainable products. There are the main problem with any material, whether it's a polymer or something else, is how much artificiality we ascribe to that or we think is imbued in that. So artificiality is one of the things that's surfaced in this too.
So this is a kind of anthropological effort. I mean, you're not actually determining whether the thing is sustainable, you're determining what people think constitutes sustainability.
Right, and I'm using the determinations that other people have done for sustainability, and the cups that I give everyone have actually been calculated out. They've been reverse engineered so that they, even though they are all made of different materials and have different manufacturing processes, they have exactly the same impact, the same sustainability factor, so that doesn't come into play as people are rating it.
What's the payoff of this research?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my main overarching goal was to give designers another tool so that if we know and we have tools that will give us sustainability factors for different materials, but if they're not believed, they're not helpful to us to actually have something that is accepted by people as a sustainable product. So if we have that tool and we have another tool that says, here's what I believe, and how can you make something that fits with those beliefs also? If I use those in parallel, then I can, as a designer, create something that will be accepted and will be calculated to be sustainable.
We have a minute and a half left. Are there places on the campus at UO where people can go and see the products that your students have created? Have you guys designed anything on the campus that people could look at?
There's nothing self-standing, sustaining that goes all the time on campus. We have critiques at the end of each term in week 10. Dead week for everyone else is live week for us. And that's when you see the flurry of all of the products produced and so forth. There are other ways though, like we were just at the Eugene Home and Garden Show. And that's where a lot of our students show off what they do and actually also show off 3D printing.
I assume that your program has one 3D printer, 5 3D printers. You have them, I assume, yes?
Yeah.
Are most of the things that you're creating, are they created on the 3D printer that the students are creating? No.
No, most of the things that they're creating are made in wood, other kinds of like thermoformed polymers, glass,
thermoformed polymers,
metal.
melted plastic put into forms. Is that right?
Yeah, melted plastic sheet.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you think that your program will ever manufacture things or design things on this campus? Is that an ambition to actually
For the campus?
Yes, for the campus.
It is actually.
Yes.
We have a project going on right now to make cups, ceramic cups that go for all of the different eating establishments on campus. So we had a large studio where the students designed cups. They had to be not only function for drinking, but also washable, work with the campus washing facilities, work with the campus SKUs. And based on all of those inputs, one of the cups has been selected and is now being processed for manufacturing.
Congratulations, I have to stop you there. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thanks for having me.
I've been speaking with Kiersten Muenchinger, Director of the Product Design Program and a Principal of the Green Product Design Network at the University of Oregon. Thanks so much for watching.